Hello, America. There are experts on the courts, like people named Judge Napolitano. There's a Judging Freedom YouTube channel with the Judge Napolitano. And the FBI and various courts have been changing also with digital evidences, with changing and faking digital evidences, with whiting forensics, and with a whole bunch of nations and the hyper foreign, keeping them the difference of guilt of the foreign and domestic. These are also people with Pakistan, but then they said they were from India. I believe they really are from Pakistan, though. Some people that work when they said their boss, and his name was Wally, who was also the owner of the business before they sold it, involved also with workers and businesses, and owner of a place near there too, or more. He said they're all, in other words, brought up the other manager of another place too. No, the place is at that corner there at Town Line Drive and Southstein Highway in Weathersfield, Connecticut. There are also people inter-cities and intra-cities who have been stacking predicate acts with facts, fake things into the databases, roles, with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants, their family members, including with interbranch family members. Like it's illegal to confess this. Like people with the Central Connecticut State University, adults and kids confessed and recorded that Joseph Lieberman and his wife, his roles with them, and with a Mike Pandolf and with others tied to him and the intelligence families, with the Weathersfield shopping centers through time, intercities through with shopping centers and malls, with the same ones involved with predicate acts on my street from other areas, like a Robert Rodriguez. He's also involved with people with home break-ins in my area through time, involved with retired police chiefs and people that from other parts of areas where like people that lived in other areas before they moved here, and collusion. But the difference of that was is used off also because there are increasingly people with all the names in the news involved at the same time. There are people from roles with Koreans involved. There are proofs with Christopher Murphy too. I don't know Christopher Murphy if he's related to a Mr. Murphy, but his daughter, I don't know her name. They might have taken a picture around her, but I never had a conversation with her. And her boyfriend, reportedly her boyfriend, a Kevin Harris, and his mother and family are involved with sexual medical offenders of kids, with leaders of the kids further, and with Quinnipiac University, they have people act, and then they have things recorded with judges and prosecutors involved. Sometimes it's them, the most criminally foreign influence. Sometimes it's the overt criminal enterprises, private ones, even when they're not in the cases. Names on all sides of criminal and civil cases, and the courts and the police forms, and names that, and next to the state corrections and judicial branch offices, they have roles with wire and mail crime methods together. They have roles with predicate acts with facts and databases together. They have roles with differences, racketeering with some black KKK, Confederate flag theme. There's some military involved with that confess. They have roles with my neighbor, Ray Kalal, and his father, Ray Kalal. And they have roles with people named Phelps, reportedly, and other Newington police departments, and people named D. Simone, investigators through time, where they have roles with all sides of criminal and civil cases, and the courts, and the police forms, and the sources, and the news at the same time. Collusions with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, insidiousness of people A through Z. They have the sources of WTNH at corners of streets, with people that live at corners of streets, and at corners of the street next to campuses, planting evidences, fake ties, the fake natures of ties to people with their own kids involved. Increasingly, people tied to a Della Fair family have roles with identity theft, fraud, slander. There's people that were in other grades, and I even saw them around schools, and they're pretending things in databases with their girlfriends, who have other boyfriends also. You know, their roles with their family members that work there, and some of them are tied to that, and some work there, and they're the kids there, and they're putting fake things in databases, fake motivations for it. Everything real that's put in databases, they're using those truths for lies. These are also people with the Weathersfield Police Facebook page, planting evidences So a Delafair family has roles with a bunch of people I don't know the names of. One of them I know the names of is a Fred Grisette, increasingly involved with probate court judges in a Delafair family that they recorded to confess that over the phone. Years later, they got brought up again. They have something to do too on town lines and rolls with people at three spots at the end of the Burlington Turnpike. Also with a Spotter family, who they said was intimately tied to them. So no, I don't even know who said that. I don't even barely know them. They try to make fake ties, fake nature ties to me, hidden what's actually recorded, where and how I don't even know their names. And so increasingly they have roles with other probate court judges too, and with the superior court judges and prosecutors and some victims advocates with a Collusion house and a Smith house near me. That Hartford Hospital recorded capacity demonstration confirms involved with them with the Leahy family that faked conversations with me through the mail to people, and the hospital won't communicate with me, and they're switching names and forging names with the judges and prosecutors and their family members involved with the same house/S, and their roles with untimely deaths and some sexual and medical offenders. They have digital crime roles. They have whiting forensics with state police, increasingly with the same houses, interstates, and with the FBI and other agencies. They have CIA too, per the syntax of Kelly Kaczmarek and per other recorded proofs, as their roles on all sides of campuses with identity theft, fraud, slanders. Their roles with Russians and Ukraine too, kids and adults, intercities, on off in the sides of Central Connecticut State University in the campus, as the ones involved on Griswold Street with the police starting fights between people, making fake ties, fake natures of ties between the people with the Russians and Ukraine, the difference of their guilt with their doctors. In other words, forced to collusions with their doctors too at Hartford Hospital, wire crimes with them, like with these Leahy family and a Lombardo family, increasingly with a Collusion family with a hairdresser plate. What is the place called? Other people, a whole bunch of people tied to Connecticut boxing gyms, have roles of people from other areas who have predicate acts on my street, with the ones further involved with extended family members who have recorded roles with the Bob Chase confessions and others at Whiting Forensics, and regarding their roles also with Joshua Julian, with the Facebook page of the principal upskirt nature, where they have worse natures of organized crime roles with him. Before that, while that was being forced, a police chief Cintron years ago is involved with a Collusion family, also with others at the corner of Elm Streets and Rocky Hill and in Weathersfield through time. A whole bunch of people involved with them with that, put fake things with their educators and databases, in the roles with the influences from off the campuses that are juxtaposed to hide behind those fake and even real motivations used for fake motivations. Because this is right where and how no one wants collusions too, because these are people involved with the World Trade Center attack. Increasingly, an O'Brien family has roles with people named Keene and others next to the state capitol and next to the state judicial branch offices. Involved with them where they put fake ties, fake nature ties, fake exceptions of knowing me, and with the one with the Robert Rodriguez, involved with them the sexual medical offenders of kids, untimely deaths at Trinity College, and on my street with the Robert Rodriguez confessions confirmed on Facebook. I never had a word of conversation with my life. Didn't even respond to him with that. In other words, then he was on Facebook. I got him to confirm it, and then they took my Facebook page because they're constantly planting evidences with people from other areas. The same people attached me to fake conversations with Weathersfield police when I was a kid, when I was an adult. Increasingly, these are people involved that knew my Saudi friend before I knew them. The cousins of a Kalolo with their name Scalora are also involved with predicate acts with police refusing to identify themselves on my street, involved with predicate acts. They're switching and forging names too. Judge Napolitano is not following mandated law over the way the other judges won't either. In other words, when they're over there using phrases like, and with the UN's got all kinds of roles with psychiatry tied to courts, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. In other words, They forgiveness is because they're all guilty together with a whole bunch of other countries and their differences when they're justifying their roles with it because they are being and have been used remotely. They're using words like in other words, like focus on the predicate acts with facts. Focus it on with the human species body, killing the human species body. If you want to cause it, in other words, you guys can't do it. You only use names A through Z fake. America, you guys can't help but use Palestine's name fake. Care for them. Same thing with Israel. You guys have criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, wrought readings of the Old Testament and of the Quran too, by the way, out of sequence. You can't even, the nature of the debate contains self-valued roles with quality aspects and fact-sheet nature inside the overall fact-sheet nature, also criminal insidiousness nature. Like what you guys blame slavery on. Opposite what our founders communicated for you guys to blame it on, and opposite what nature communicated for you guys to blame it on. You guys, as those formal and you opinion natures who came through campuses A through Z, you got, in other words, and the differences of that, the nature of the debate, you guys are broke. How could you even leave out black people's rights of eyes? How could you even leave out how nature communicates with this, let alone our founders, about how the breaching method reassigned what nature communicates and rolls with it. Otherwise, that body was sensed. Our founders declassified their communications that they did not have free speech. They did not want roles with slavery. In other words, it wasn't about a T-tax when slavery was in charge of northern colonies, southern colonies. That was just part of their fake. Everyone had to hide their actual motivations because of the depth of the laws, roles with overt criminal enterprise, private ones, terrorists, at the same time, because way worse. And insidiousness of A through Z and news too at the same time. Whiting Forensics has a bunch of people with UConn involved with a whole bunch of different countries, people from Pakistan, people from Italy. John Maiano will tell you he's involved with sequence ship. He lies to his with his educators too, involved with sequence ships, identity theft, fraud, slanders, acting off campuses, tied to as collusions with people putting predicate acts with facts in databases, sequence ships. He's involved increasingly with people on my street, indirectly with sexual and medical offenders involved next to Hartford Hospital too, like with this Leahy family and a Rick Cianfaglione. After he graduated, showed me about the John Maiano, who I only knew his name was repeated to me by a Ray Collusion. In other words, I basically never even seen them around each other. They tried to make a fake exception. The only time I even saw his face, we looked like one when I was in a grammar school. And when I was in high school, one time he was in the corner. When I was walking by, they made a fake exception. In other words, he made a quote of the Goodfellas movie. He's got something to do with the intelligence at 3 spots at the end of the Berlin Turnpike with some probate court judges' families and foreign and domestic military involved with the World Trade Center attack. I'm not saying he knows about that, but he knows to an extent it's plausible. He has roles with the Demoro family that has people with a Scalora family and investigators regarding people with the name Scalora. I didn't explain it to her, in other words, because there's also the World Trade Center attack and all sides of criminal and civil cases in the court next to the World Trade Center attack, right before the World Trade Center attack. The court itself and names on both sides of that case, and their sources are increasingly predicate acts against me, and with people from Saudi Arabia involved with these Mendez police, and people tied to them with the name Demoro, and other people with the Scaloras, also with the same house /S near me, involved with predicate acts with the people with the Demoro wire crimes, with the Wethersfield police, digital crimes, with Whiting Forensics people, and Hartford, and state police family, interstates, and Eric Jensen and Mike Roberts will tell you this. Mike Roberts will tell you that he was influenced to repeat fake things and use truths for lies of people all along Route 175 and conjunctions to it. His roles with a police chief Centron, with a Mazzucato bakery and a modern pastry, and people that are tied to them involved with identity theft, putting fake things, having them repeat it, as people involved with Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, and increasingly involved with predicate acts on my street with people from other areas. And I found out it's recorded. We could all observe on off the state corrections offices and off the state judicial branch offices in conjunctions to that. They have roles with a whole bunch of natures of organized crimes, not the way they pretend. And they have roles with that exploited for World Trade Center predicate acts and roles with differences, racketeering, worse than war crimes. They have natures of industry that they know originally and still. Private criminal enterprises had time collusions with overt criminal enterprises, private ones and the terrorists, not just distinctly northern colonies and southern colonies, but non-distinctly too. They had even slavery against our black pupils, whites of eyes even. You ever see remember when they first started coming out with they get some guy with a KKK outfit and they get some black guy. And, they're little tools to measure and maintain still the same fake size, leaving out their roles with the breaching method left out, where that breaching method is supposed to be blamed per our founders' communications to us and per nature's itself. Instead, you guys want to hide behind how campuses A through Z forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded others themselves, like a tea tax, to be blamed for what caused the American Revolution. There was slavery entrenched northern colony, southern colony. That per that method that had been sustained against the differences of Native Americans A through Z to keep others themselves blamed besides itself. Because nature's showing us increasingly, as it knew it would, there's a human fact human nature breaching a method involved with all the negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures upon ourselves. With crimes, for example, and the people speaking about crimes, increasingly involved with predicate acts with facts, methods, needs, and natures as criminal insidiousness nature itself. I am not a lawyer. I recorded lawyers incapable of following the law properly, unless we force them. But in other words, black people, the mandated law forces them to respond. In other words, it's recorded that the police are using and have used wire and mail crime methods and fake conversations with me at the police station, pretended into databases, and fake conversations again as an adult too. As an adult, at least I was down there. And in other words, they made arrests. I did get arrested one time. I had no conversation. The guys took my thumbprints and that was it. When they came and that class they arrested me from too. That teacher is increasingly involved with sexual and medical offenders. She repeated things about sexual things and the religion of one of the family members of our little girl that I never even met that lives near me. And that is increasingly getting involved. And these are people involved searching for means to cover up how I recorded them with the fire departments and with the police, putting fake transcripts regarding what they perceive. They're switching and forging names. They're fabricating evidences as collusions. A bunch of people tied to a Dilla family at Hartford Hospital, and to a Colol family, and a DeMoro family, and an Ayala family, and former mayors from Wethersfield. They have drugs and medicines crimes at the spots next to Hartford Hospital, with the names at the hospital involved with wire and mail crimes with them. These are natures of industry with psychiatry tied to the identities of the law right through world wars. Specifically, to have them styles, needs, and natures pretending not to realize, but used remotely. They're speculating on economies, have the audacity to speak on economies, black pupils. The suburbs were designed, even where they didn't have free speech hardly at all. They wanted to build safer and better than they have. The houses are still designed. Tactically denatured relationship to the identity of the ground, its identity relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that. And hyper additionally with its roles with water and gases in their mixture. Positive or negative. Increasingly, even the whole ocean from this one species body, the only one criminally foreign influence, is polluted. You guys can't even make solutions to war while you guys have the suburbs designed unsafe since before our founders were born. The people didn't even have cars, and they could have built better and wanted to build better and safer. More energy can be made and saved by dropping water in beautiful ways than it takes to lift it. In other words, this breaching method does have roles with taxes and things like that. In other words, this has roles. You guys at countries A through Z, you guys are speaking about economies as fakes. only capable of it because you came through child abuse campuses that were hyper criminally foreign influenced, too, specifically to keep other things others themselves blamed for things that the breaching method causes and keeps, including things like criminal foreign influences. And then it knew that once everyone was sustained roles with itself doing that, those criminal influences would be real and it would be able to hide behind that. It's not just that those are evil people. In other words, the people they have in the prisons are like, fine. We just see them like this and they're on there. And like before they were like that, they came through campuses where the differences of the collusions there or at other locations, all sides of their houses too, of the kids. Increasingly, all natures of roles, like things through time, all standards are and have been involved with a method that is hyper criminally foreign influenced. A keen family will tell you, I don't know them at all. And I still have not been responded to regarding the confessions tied to them and their neighbors by the people that brought them up interstates with the World Trade Center attack. Before the World Trade Center attack, the Connecticut Judicial Branch offices had collusions with the FBI at West Hartford locations. It's in Wethersfield, Connecticut. They have roles also inter-campuses with the people putting predicate acts with facts, fake things in databases, fake audio and video transcripts, fake ties, fake natures of ties to kids. At the same time, they've been doing with this with the news. So then no one could go back and afford quality of fact should be nature. So they want to use words like genocide with the UN. The UN has roles with all kinds of drugs and medicines crimes, creating actual conditions in people by putting, all kinds of delusions too with psychiatry. In other words, and with principles. American history's principles are about how James Madison counter-extorted the rest of the founders and the president that would agree to help to do that, George Washington, who was also counter-extorted by James Madison and the founders behind him, plural. And his plan, though, we were supposed to refer to them, plural, and his plan as him, singular, because then they went and got George Washington to agree to help them and use that plan, which was to force people to break the laws and have no means to defend themselves but to help the unity of the plan. The founders behind James Madison and his plan have no choice but to. That's how crazy the laws were against every single person. That's how crazy simultaneously they had collusions with overt criminal enterprises, private ones. And that's when things were, and worse. And that's when things were humming and everyone's sense and sensibilities were right. Otherwise, everyone would sense for the breaching method. Anyone trying to adapt that syntax nature, even if that body was a majority of people, even if it was everybody. In any grouping of countries while entertaining the locations, areas, and states, factory, nature, quality, aspects, nature, and styles of logic, natures of logic. We are a human species body of individual bodies with all group differences. More and more, we are forbid to have our short words appreciated relative to that system with that. That is showing us it's generating all differences. It's generating why and how there are other species bodies that are also individual species bodies of individuals with all group differences generated by that same thing that generates a totally different species body. We too long, humanity's species body has ignored Earth's special difference in our own. The only reason we have been allowed to so long is, look, the whole ocean is polluted. The reason we have been allowed to so long to get away with it, we don't hunger and thirst through these systems. We know that. We all agree about these things, other than they pull us on. Quinnipiac University has polling that's criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, involved with all kinds of natures of organized crimes, not the ones with their family members. In other words, they're interbranch too. This Delafair family has their educators too, as increasingly multiple courts family members are involved with predicate acts on my street with people from other areas. I never saw Delafair on my street in my life. Increasingly, they have roles with the Roach family. I don't know what they told them about me, but they also my family members too. Put fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. This Delafair family has been roles with all sides of criminal and civil cases with his educators too, planting evidences, trying to make pictures to make it look like fake other ties, nature ties. They confess they've had people all along Route 3 with them in conjunctions to the state judicial branch offices as part of what has them with the town lines through time, where they make fake exceptions of knowing me, with the people I don't know at all, and the one tied to the spread grisette, increasingly with retired police chiefs, with people from other areas I don't know, where complete strangers sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm they have roles with organized crimes with police chief Cintron and other police chiefs and people in my area that I never even saw them tied, knew them tied to. They're trying to make it look like we're a group tied with this Fred Grisette. In other words, sequence shifting with them, increasingly people with modern pastry with a Mayano family, and people and places tied to them next to Hartford Hospital, and 3 spots at the end of the Pearl Turnpike involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders against me. Their roles with Elm Street and Rocky Hill and Weathersfield, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed with foreign and domestic military involved with the World Trade Center attack. Their roles with West Hartford locations too, and Middletown locations with whiting forensics and with sexual and medical offenders of kids, and with people with judges and prosecutors of various different courts, people with the Connecticut District Court, the New Britain Superior Court, Hartford courts, and their family members and intimate ties involved with this. Also with people that live near them, like this Perron family, and people that live involved with corners of streets tied to them, and their roles as an exception. No, they have something to do too with shipping spots. People, in other words, where they go when they have roles with journalists too on a number of ways. I don't even know all their names. There was a journalist from another journalist, not just I saw him near Fox Connecticut News and the timing of it. They have roles on off the campuses planting predicate acts backs with facts, and with the people like with they have sexual circles per themselves. And then they were saying that, and like they must have taken a picture of me near a Danielle Perron. I never had a word of conversation with her. In other words, she has roles with a Mike Violet, a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital, and people from UConn involved with drugs and medicines crimes with the kids as the only ones allowed to counter such things, and other natures of organized crimes with them, with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, not legitimately. And they're educators from when these are also people when they went to a St. Anthony school. They have people involved with the interbranch, with child defenders and narratives, investigations. They're all putting fake ties, fake natures of ties to people. There's a Kerr family, a Perron family involved with federal evidences crimes. Fake ties, fake natures of ties to me, behind my back to my family. In other words, and in records with the courts too. In other words, they try to make a fake look at my face too. They're putting fake things in databases. They have victims advocates, and their rules with a whole bunch of people at next to the state capitol involved with the military breached. Increasingly, people tied to this Violet family and military people next to the state capitol. I don't know them from other areas, and their roles with spots along Route 3, like a religious spot, and names all sides of it, like the Robert Rodriguez, involved further on my street, planting evidences with the principal upskirt Nature's campus, and more with security with the campuses recorded. In other words, and they're pretending other, and they're getting away with it because you don't get them on paper. They put faked and changed writing, and they hid what I caught them doing by changing digital evidences too, with whiting forensics. Has all kinds of digital crimes, also with Facebook itself, involved with the Britain Superior Court. They know the Britain Superior Court has rape threats. It's recorded time collusions before the principal child abuser was caught. Those are people involved with that campus and with their educators from other classrooms. There's a 6th grade teacher that wasn't my teacher. They tried to make a fake exception with like 2 classes, and he did a little trick with mold on bread to put fake things in databases. I had hit his kid who was older than me with a stick in the back one time, but they were also involved with changing and faking things, with people involved with putting fake things in databases. I never saw them at campuses. In other words, but their father was involved with the 6th grade. We had the 3 different teachers in the 6th grade. The people that were in my 6th grade at Highcrest School, as the one involved with the principal Michael Bean, with some more digital crimes with the kids, and with Weathersfield Police Chief Cintron has more sexual and medical offenders of kids, foreign and domestic. They have sick people from other countries, including Pakistan. It's not personal, Pakistan. You guys have some sick, demented, fake punks involved with crime scenes while pretending to be against it as their roles with psychiatry. Also, tactically delusions raw, involved with criminally foreign influence, principal treatments of American history, too. And different treatments, their own difference, other people's differences. You got some nutbags, but then when they go, I wasn't even proven guilty of anything, and they were faking the evidences to force the principal child abuser too. And they put a charge with no evidences. They're supposed to show me the police report. They're not doing it. These prisons have been involved with torture since before they got involved with writing the Patriot Act, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. We're going to address this. We're going to go backwards and fix these things. You're going to get them on paper into branch in one name and sequence. Judge Napolitano, do what's right. Get them on paper, one name and sequence. They have your Facebook page involved with Facebook. Now they have your YouTube involved too. They won't follow mandated law and get on paper. They're using wire and mail crime methods where they post fake phone transcripts because they can't afford to have discerned what's recorded, and they already fake conversations at the police station as a kid and then as an adult. And then they had to hide that and pretend such through the news too. Increasingly, WFSB, Fox Connecticut News, and the intelligence next to them are being confessing, demonstrating, recording, confirming they have that involved with them, with the foreign and domestic military, and people with the World Trade Center and the names next to it, including the court, and are ones involved with interstates, with all sides of criminal and civil cases, and the courts and their police forms and sources putting the same things in the news, same sequence shifts, and with insidiousness of people A through Z. You just need to follow mandated law. Let's deal with the predicate acts with facts regarding the impositions upon the Palestinians. And regarding the readings of the Quran that are tactical collusions with the tactical delusions too, with the group speaking about the religions. You guys have that, they're all delusions raw and out of sequence reading the books. The beginning of the Quran has a part two, just like the beginning of the Old Testament. The beginning of the Quran says all that matters is if one is going to be honest about their use of the name Allah for the scientific value of that which is all space, the identity of everything at once, all space/existence, so to speak. In other words, it even qualifies it that an individual, if they sense they should not pray in a mosque for the slightest reason, they should not. It says the only thing that matters is if they're honest about the name of that scientifically. You guys have everything to keep the how they use the names. This is the class, and we're going to learn about Russia, and then over there, this is the class we're going to learn about America. Then they have to defend that. They can't defend their names. In other words, the breaching method forced wars. The breaching method. Black pupils, get them on paper, one name and sequence, who disbelieves that a breaching method is what black people reassigned what black people's whites of eyes communicates, and there are roles self-valued with that. Otherwise, roles sensing for the breaching method if anyone brings it up. Please get me up for fake conversations with the courts. Get them on paper. They've been putting predicate acts with facts with the Britain Superior Court with a bunch of people in Wethersfield, on off the judicial branch and corrections offices, also with the campuses involved with organized crimes, identity theft, fraud, slanders. Stephen Stockwell is going to confess this. He has wire crimes at the Wethersfield Police, Judge Napolitano. His roles with digital offenders of kids and with sexual circles involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and pretended passions and emotions. I bring their names up. They brought their name up. Then they lie about that too. Please get them up. Why they're bringing it up. He's got, in other words, and I never saw Maria Vazina on a Wethersfield campus in my life. And increasingly, people from Central Connecticut State University in the Britain, Connecticut, are recording and are planting evidences with foreign and domestic countries, overt criminal enterprise, private ones, and sexual and medical offenders of kids, with the prosecutors and judges personally involved and their neighbors too. At the same time, for worse, we're gonna see they have more time collusions with the World Trade Center attack, the same ones with the Wethersfield Police. People with the name Mendez at the Wethersfield Police Department forced Saudis to collusions with them, intercities. They have a Jay Salvatore. I never had a word of conversation with a Jay Salvatore. He's also involved on my street with the Marines and with Air Force and Army and in other words, other involved with this Navy too. There were proofs. That's why he put a helicopter, the Ray Collusion. He has roles with the corner of Elm Street and Rocky Hill and Weathersfield, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, where he has roles planting fake things in databases with judges and prosecutors, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and his educators, and people from other areas who've been planting evidence on my street, but they only know the extent of it themselves. That's why they don't get onto paper. There are increasingly already collusions with all sides of criminal and civil cases, and the courts' names and the police forms and their sources at the same time. Again, the news, etc. They all need to pretend. They're readings of statutes and precedents they can't justify legitimately. Facebook increasingly has collusions too with the campuses and with elections corruption that both sides have roles with, and criminal. The difference of Republican. They can't. How can they explain the difference between Republican and Democrat if they can't defend and discern the difference between how we have the same color eyes and different color eyes at the same time, and how the breaching method plays with differences to keep other communicated for nature than what it communicates by showing us its difference from all the different. It's different from all of the things, but not by any way. Many pray. Boxing. In other words, please, Judge Napolitano, follow mandated law. Please, Facebook, YouTube, follow mandated law here. They're using wire and mail crimes and digital crime methods that Facebook, you guys could discern this. There are more upskirt pictures on Twitter, further with the convicted principal upskirt nature roles that the FBI has roles with predicate acts with me with those upskirt pictures sent to me to threaten and demonstrate to me roles against me with people with parks and recs too, and next to the parks on Morgan Circle are a bunch of people involved with state police families and Weathersfield Police and other police departments, and people on Elm Streets in Rocky Hill and Weathersfield through time who, with their educators, have been putting predicate acts with facts and databases, overt criminal enterprise, private ones, not legitimately roles with intelligence and their roles with weapons, like people involved with the corner of South Steen Highway and Town Line Drive, who are involved all along Route 175, and in doing Newington gun exchange with a Kerr family is increasingly involved with a Judge Smith and a Judge Killian, involved with people in my area, involved with other judges too, in the state judicial branch offices and corrections offices, with all kinds of natures of organized crimes, with the databases, fake ties and fake natures of ties to people, and with the news at the same time. In other words, there are proofs that their roles with all sides of the Diddy case and the courts too. And I recorded this before I even knew about that case, proofs of it. And with Usher involved and Snoop Dogg, other people at and next to Trinity College, with the family members of the judges and prosecutors involved with the same house/S near me, increasingly putting fake things in databases and lying about what they communicate, which is distinct from what they say, as collusions with courts playing games like that. At the same time, with proven child abusers, leaders of kids years apart, overt criminal enterprises and private ones. They increasingly have roles playing with games with at grammar schools and younger. In other words, these are sick people. In other words, black pupils who hide and plot. I rap a lot. In other words, Judge Napolitano, do what's right. Get them on paper, one name and sequence. I'll show you how no fake scientists get away with it. Right through world wars, you guys had collusions with psychiatry, with all kinds of sick things, with triages. You guys have more scams at Hartford Hospital than there are streets in Hartford and Weathersfield together, with the Slahy family and the Lombardo family alone as the ones tied to them on my street with predicate acts from other areas, and with their databases and their roles with judges and prosecutors speaking fake things in their delusions and databases. Same time with the news, fake conversations with me. Get them off the fake conversation with me, Judge Napolitano, and hurry up. This is World Trade Center. This comes first. I'll put those fake military people up here. Get them on paper for the military too, with this Leahy family at Hartford Hospital and the courts. Fake. Get them on paper, one name and sequence. Get them, in other words, What are they doing with the Afghan leaders and kids too, with the Smith family and the Weathersfield town opposite? Hey,